You are staring at an engine bay right now, and somewhere in there is a part that costs you nothing to maintain, takes 30 seconds to check, and Japanese drivers have been quietly replacing every 6 months while American dealers hope you never find out it exists. Engine. Here is the truth that changed how I think about every vehicle I will ever own. In Japan, the average car on the road has nearly twice the mileage of the average American car. Not because their cars are built better, because their drivers know 7 specific habits that cost absolutely nothing and keep engines running past 800,000 miles. These are not mechanical secrets. These are behavior secrets, and once you understand them, you will never look at your car the same way again. 7. Now I am going to share all 7 with you today, but the last one, the one I saved for the end, comes from a 1987 Tokyo taxi fleet study that was never translated into English. That study tracked vehicles that crossed 1 million kilometers, and the single habit that separated the cars that made it from the cars that did not will surprise you. It has nothing to do with oil, nothing to do with filters, and you can start doing it tonight with a piece of paper and a pen. Last, I stumbled onto this research 3 years ago when my nephew married a woman from Nagoya. Her father had been a taxi driver for 41 years. Same car for the last 19 of them. When I asked him how that was possible, he did not talk about parts. He talked about patience. He talked about listening. And he talked about a notebook he kept in his glove compartment that looked older than I am. Notebook. Let me start with the first habit, because it is the one that sounds the least impressive, but delivers the biggest results over time. Japanese drivers anticipate traffic lights. That sounds almost too simple to matter, but here is what happens when you do it consistently. You reduce the number of complete stops your vehicle makes by 30 to 40% over the life of the car. Every complete stop means your brake pads compress, your rotors heat, your transmission shifts down through every gear, your engine drops to idle, and then has to climb back up through the RPM range. American drivers treat every yellow light like a dare. Japanese drivers treat every intersection like a chess move. They read the traffic pattern 2 blocks ahead, they ease off the accelerator early, they coast into the light timing. And when the light turns green, they are already rolling at 15 miles per hour, while the American driver next to them is still pushing off from a dead stop. The wear difference accumulates invisibly, but after 10 years, the Japanese driver has a transmission that shifted under load 40,000 fewer times, brake pads that compressed under heat 60,000 fewer times, an engine that climbed from idle to cruising speed 80,000 fewer times, same car, same roads, exposed to a fraction of the stress. Now, this habit alone will not get you to 800,000 miles, but it sets the foundation for everything else, because once you start thinking about your car as a system that responds to how you drive, not just what parts you install, you start noticing the next habit immediately. Japanese drivers park in the shade, not for comfort, for chemistry. Rubber seals around your windows and doors are not designed to bake. The plasticizers in those seals evaporate when exposed to direct sunlight year after year. That is why older cars develop window leaks and door rattles that younger cars do not have. The sun did not crack the seal. The sun cooked the flexibility out of it. But here is what most Americans never consider. Your battery is also dying faster in the heat. Lead-acid batteries lose capacity at an accelerated rate when ambient temperature exceeds 95 degrees Fahrenheit. A car parked in direct summer sun in Phoenix or Houston or Atlanta can see interior temperatures above 140 degrees. The battery sits in that environment for 8 hours while you work. Every single day. for years. Japanese drivers in urban areas will circle a parking lot for an extra 2 minutes looking for a shade spot. Americans think that is a waste of time, but Japanese drivers are not thinking about today. They are thinking about year 7, year 12, year 19. They are thinking about the replacement battery they will not have to buy, the door seals they will not have to replace, the dashboard that will not crack. And if no shade is available, they use windshield reflectors, not the flimsy foil kind sold at gas stations. They use thick, multi-layer reflectors that actually block infrared radiation. They cost less than $15, and they pay for themselves within 6 months in reduced interior degradation alone. But there is something even more interesting happening inside those Japanese vehicles. Something that connects directly to the third habit. They listen to their engines during cold starts. Most American drivers start their car, check their phone, and drive away. The engine could be screaming at them, and they would never hear it. Japanese drivers, especially older ones, treat the first 30 seconds of a cold start as a diagnostic session. They listen for abnormal ticking, for belt squeals, and for irregularities in the exhaust tone. They do this with the radio off and the windows cracked. Here is why this matters so much. Most catastrophic engine failures begin as subtle audio cues weeks or months before the actual failure. A lifter tick that appears only when the oil is cold, a serpentine belt that chirps only at low revolutions per minute, a water pump bearing that whines only during the first minute of operation. These sounds are your engine asking for help. And if you never listen, you never hear the question. One study from Osaka University in 1994 tracked owner reported maintenance costs across 2 groups. The first group received no special instruction. The second group was trained to perform a 30-second cold start listening ritual every morning. After 5 years, the second group had 43% lower unplanned repair costs, not because they fixed more things, because they caught small problems before those problems became expensive. Now, if you already own a car and you are thinking this only applies to people buying new vehicles in Japan, stay with me. This next part is specifically for you. These habits do not require a new car. They do not require a special engine. They do not require any tool you do not already have. You can start the cold start listening ritual tomorrow morning. You can start the traffic light anticipation technique on your next drive. You can start parking in the shade this afternoon. The car you own right now, regardless of its age, will benefit from every single one of these practices. In fact, older cars benefit more. Older cars are closer to the failure thresholds where these habits make the biggest difference. A new car can absorb abuse for years before showing symptoms. An older car shows you exactly what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong almost in real time. Your 15-year-old sedan is not a liability, it is a feedback machine. But there is a fourth habit that Japanese drivers practice, which Americans almost universally ignore, and it has to do with how you accelerate from a stop. In the United States, we measure car performance by how fast you can get from 0 to 60. In Japan, they measure car longevity by how slowly you can get from 0 to 30. This is not a philosophy. This is physics. When you accelerate hard from a stop, your engine operates at peak combustion pressure while oil is still draining back from the cylinder walls. The first 3 seconds of aggressive acceleration after a stoplight create more metal-on-metal contact than 15 minutes of highway cruising. Your transmission is also working hardest during those first moments. Clutch packs are engaging under maximum load. Torque converters are transferring power through fluid that has not yet reached optimal temperature. Japanese drivers treat the first 10 seconds after every stop as a warm-up period. They press the accelerator as if pressing an egg. They let the engine speed climb naturally, they shift early, or let the automatic transmission shift without demanding urgency. And they reach cruising speed 30% slower than the American driver next to them. The result is startling when you calculate it over the life of a vehicle. An American car experiences approximately 400,000 aggressive acceleration events over 200,000 miles of mixed driving. A Japanese car, driven with gradual acceleration habits, experiences roughly 120,000 moderate acceleration events over the same distance. That is 280,000 fewer stress cycles on the drivetrain, same miles, same destinations, one-third the internal punishment. Dealers know this, manufacturers know this, but they have no incentive to tell you. A car that lasts twice as long is a car that is not replaced, and cars that are not replaced are customers that are not buying. This brings me to the fifth habit. This one requires me to explain how Japanese culture views mechanical objects, a view American culture has largely abandoned. In Japan, there is a concept called mo-ったいない. It roughly translates to a feeling of regret over waste. But it goes deeper. It means objects deserve care because creating them required effort and resources. When you waste an object through neglect, you are disrespecting everyone who contributed to its existence. Japanese drivers internalize this concept without even realizing it. They wash their cars not for appearance, but to remove corrosive contaminants from paint and the undercarriage. They wax their cars not for shine, but to prevent oxidation that leads to rust. They vacuum their interiors not for comfort, but to remove grit that accelerates wear on upholstery and carpet fibers. Americans view these activities as cosmetic. Japanese drivers view them as maintenance. The distinction matters because it changes frequency. An American washes their car when it looks dirty. A Japanese driver washes their car every 2 weeks, regardless of appearance. The visual threshold for dirty is much higher than the chemical threshold for corrosion. By the time an American sees dirt worth washing, a Japanese driver has already prevented 6 weeks of chemical damage. Salt exposure in winter climates makes this even more critical. Road salt begins attacking metal surfaces within hours of contact. It does not wait for you to notice it. It does not wait for spring. Every day that salt sits on your undercarriage is a day of active corrosion eating through your frame, brake lines, and exhaust components. The sixth habit might be the most controversial because it directly contradicts what many American drivers believe about engine warm-up. For decades, American drivers were told to let their engines idle for several minutes before driving, especially in cold weather. Japanese drivers learned something different in the 1990s. Idling to warm up actually extends the cold wear period rather than shortening it. Here is the science. When an engine idles, it generates minimal heat. The combustion events are too infrequent and too weak to warm the engine block quickly. Metal expansion from heat is what closes the microscopic gaps between piston rings and cylinder walls. Until those gaps close, blow-by increases. Oil contamination increases. Fuel dilution in the crankcase increases. Japanese drivers discovered that gentle driving warms an engine 3 to 4 times faster than idling. The key word is gentle, not aggressive. They start the engine, wait 15 seconds for oil pressure to stabilize, and then drive at low RPM for the first 5 minutes. The load on the engine generates heat that idling cannot match, and that heat closes the ring gaps faster, reducing the total time the engine operates in its most vulnerable state. A 2003 study from the Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association found that engines warmed through gentle driving reached optimal operating temperature in an average of 4 minutes. Engines warmed through idling took an average of 12 minutes to reach the same temperature. That is 8 additional minutes of cold wear conditions every single cold start for the entire life of the vehicle. Multiply that by 4 cold starts per day in winter. Multiply that by 120 days of winter per year. Multiply that by 20 years of ownership. You are looking at thousands of hours of additional cold wear exposure simply because Americans were told to idle their engines by people who did not understand the chemistry. But here is where everything comes together, because the 7th habit is the one that makes all the other habits actually work. And it comes from that 1987 Tokyo taxi fleet study I mentioned at the beginning. Researchers wanted to understand why certain taxi vehicles lasted dramatically longer than others, despite identical driving conditions, identical routes, and identical maintenance schedules. The vehicles were the same model and year. The drivers logged similar mileage. The maintenance intervals were corporate mandates that every driver followed. Yet some vehicles crossed 1 million kilometers, while others required major engine rebuilds at 600,000 kilometers. The gap was too large to explain through manufacturing variants. Something else was happening. When researchers interviewed the drivers of the longest-lasting vehicles, they found one common practice that the other drivers did not share. These drivers kept personal maintenance notebooks, not official logs, personal notebooks. Every time they noticed something unusual about the vehicle, they wrote it down in their notebooks. Not just repairs, observations. The date the clutch started engaging slightly higher, the date the air conditioning took an extra second to blow cold, the date the idle seemed rougher after filling up at a new gas station. Small details that by themselves meant nothing, but over time those notebooks revealed patterns that mechanics could not see from a single visit. One driver noticed that his engine consumed slightly more oil every time he exceeded a certain revolutions per minute threshold. He started keeping his revolutions per minute below that threshold during highway driving. His engine never needed the oil consumption repair that identical vehicles in the fleet required at 400,000 kilometers. If this saved you money, wait until you see the Amish home system. The full guide is in the description. Grab it before you forget. Another driver noticed that his transmission hesitated every third Tuesday. He eventually correlated it with the temperature of the parking structure where he left the car overnight on Monday, the coldest level. Transmission fluid thickened. He started parking one level higher. The hesitation disappeared. These notebooks allowed drivers to become experts in their specific vehicle. Not in cars generally, in their car specifically. That specificity made all the difference. You can start this notebook tonight. Use a simple composition book from any store. Write the date. Write your mileage. Write anything you noticed. Do this every day for 6 months. You will know your vehicle better than any mechanic ever could because you will have continuous longitudinal data that no diagnostic computer can replicate. The American automotive industry does not want you to do this. A driver who understands their vehicle at this level does not panic when a warning light appears. They do not approve unnecessary repairs out of fear. They do not replace vehicles prematurely because they cannot distinguish between a minor quirk and a major failure. These 7 habits cost nothing. Anticipate traffic lights, park in the shade, listen during cold starts, accelerate gradually, wash regularly regardless of appearance, warm up through gentle driving instead of idling, and keep a personal notebook of observations. Japanese drivers have been practicing these habits for generations. Their vehicles outlast ours, not because of superior manufacturing, not because of better mechanics, because of superior habits that no one profits from teaching you. The dealerships do not make money when your car lasts 800,000 miles. The parts stores do not make money when your engine never fails. The repair shops do not make money when you catch problems before they become expensive. Everyone in the automotive ecosystem is financially incentivized to keep you ignorant. But now you know. You have the same information that kept a taxi driver In Tokyo, on the road for 19 years with the same vehicle. You have the same principles that made Japanese cars legendary. Not the cars themselves, the drivers. If you are the kind of person who believes real knowledge has been quietly set aside because it does not serve the people selling you things, you already know why this video matters, and you already know what to do next. Tell me in the comments which of these 7 habits you are going to start with. And if you already practice any of them, I want to hear about it. Did you learn it from someone? Did you figure it out yourself? Leave a comment and let the rest of us know. When you subscribe to this channel, you are joining a group of people who refuse to accept that expensive equals better and complicated equals necessary. We are recovering the simple knowledge that built things to last. Next week, I am going to show you what Japanese truck drivers do during the first 50 miles after every oil change that triples the effectiveness of that fresh oil. It involves something you already have in your garage, and it takes less than 5 minutes. I will see you then.